Hello folks, Phosphorescent Pez here, and no, hang on, no, that isn't it. Oh yeah. Hello folks, it's Incandescent Italian 90... No, that's not it either. My memory's not so good these days. Okay, got it. Hello folks, Subadolescent Sensible Soccer... Okay, now I'm just being ridiculous, that's absolutely stupid. Let's move on, shall we? Hello folks, Fluorescent FIFA here. It has been a very, very long time since I have said that into a microphone. How are you all? I hope you're well. Yeah, it's been a long time. It really has been a long time. If you're seeing this as the first video that I've put up in a while, there have been a clip or two that I've put up in more recent times, you may have noticed, after disappearing, well, not quite off the face of the earth, but certainly off of YouTube for the best part of 4 years. But I am back, of sorts, at any rate. I'm going to play a game of FIFA, as is tradition, and I'm going to just kind of talk for a little bit, and hopefully win. But on this game, who knows? We'll fire up the game. We're just going to play a game of Seasons Cup, and I think for old time's sake, it would make sense if we were a certain team with a certain player. And that brings back a lot of memories. So we will be using Benfica. We will of course be using Jonas, or Jonas, as Martin Tyler pronounces him as in this game. And we will be using, if I can find the right button, good old friend of full manual controls. We'll get into the game and I will talk. I should say that while we go into this, this is my first kind of proper attempt at doing a commentary with new equipment and stuff, so if things are a little raw, I apologise. But hopefully we can have this turn out alright. I have done one trial run and that seemed to go okay, so I think things should be alright. So while we get into this game, if we can find one, I will tell you a little bit about what has been going on with me in the last, whatever it's been, 4.5 years. Quite recently I watched back the video I posted when I stopped doing YouTube. Because I wanted to I wanted to remind myself exactly why, or at least why it seemed at the time, that was a terrible shot, that I did. And listening to that back, I was quite surprised that a lot of the reasoning behind it seemed to be tied to the FIFA community and other people. And
hi there, Martin.
Over the time that I've been away, I've probably learned a bit more about myself and grown up a bit. And I think it's a shame that part of the reasoning behind it was caring too much about what others thought and how other people acted. That's part of sort of the journey I've been on in the last few years. So those of you who remember from back in the day will probably remember that I sort of got a bit fed up with it. That was the main thing. I basically got fed up of doing YouTube. I was not in a particularly great place in life, given where I probably should have been. I was...
We'll go with this team today.
Give me a minute. Oh, no, terrible. I was unemployed for about a year after leaving university. I did very well at university. I actually got a first-class master's degree because I worked my arse off in my 4th year, which was while I actually started doing the stuff on YouTube. And then I kind of got stuck into a bit of a mental rut where I just wasn't really putting anywhere near enough time or effort into kind of getting my life going and getting, you know, into full-time employment and everything else, and YouTube was a part of that. And eventually, the reason I stopped was a couple of things. I got a full-time job, which was obviously a good reason because I figured I wouldn't have much time, and that ended up being very true. I got a new girlfriend at the time, and I was moving to a new area, and it was all going to be a bit kind of a fresh start for me. So that all went as planned, and obviously those of you who may remember, I did set up another channel, which I never really used much, which was where I attempted to do a playthrough of my favourite game of all time, No One Lives Forever 2, which was a shoot-'em-up spy game. But that kind of fell apart because I was too much going on at the time. I probably needed a bit of an extended break from YouTube. I actually planned on coming back quite a bit sooner. So I started a job as a software engineer. I worked for quite a large company for about 2.5 years. I got very lucky with that job because the manager I had and the group of people I worked with were really good people, not just in terms of professionally, they were good at their jobs, but they were very good with me at helping me get a good start to my career. I'm very grateful to all of them for that. And, you know, that was my first foray properly into the world of work. I had a brief part-time job when I was about 16, working in a play area, and I hated it. So I was very nervous going into employment, especially having been, you know, unemployed for a year and all this sort of stuff. But it was actually really good, and as I say, they took a chance on me. I was a graduate, you know, I didn't have experience in software really. I do remember putting YouTube on my CV, incidentally. It was like 3,500 subscribers or whatever it was at the time, you know, big time. But you know, that all things considered went well. Unfortunately, I ended up needing to leave that company after 2.5 years because I needed to change in terms of I knew that the I knew that the company was well, not the company itself, but the office that I was in was eventually going to involve having everyone being made redundant, so I had to move on, which was a shame, but that's what it was. But I had a sort of up and down time personally during that time. So, as part of working for that company, so it was a large multinational software company, and as with a lot of software companies, once they reach that size, they have offices all around the world. So one of the offices that they had was in a place called Noida. Now, Noida is a suburb of Delhi in India, if you're not familiar with it. It's kind of the main IT hub, I think, in India. So I got the opportunity to go, and it was something I was quite nervous about because I'm not somebody who's ever travelled much. You know, I've very rarely been abroad. Before that, I've been a couple of times and like on family holidays with my parents to places like Mallorca and the Canary Islands or something, but I wasn't someone who really travelled abroad much. And then suddenly not on my own, I was going with my manager, but to go to, you know, India was something I was a bit nervous about. Now actually, the people there were people I worked with every day, and they were fantastic, you know, balls. I really enjoyed meeting those guys, but unfortunately while I was in India I got quite ill. Now, lots of people get ill in India the first time they go, or really when they travel to anywhere with a kind of unfamiliar, you know, whether it's climate or food or whatever. But I actually got quite ill in India. So I won't give you all the gory details, I'm sure you can figure it out, but basically it was a bad case of, that's terrible, basically a bad case of food poisoning. But what happened was I got, not better, but you know, I got into myself back into a state where I was fine to get back on the original plane that I was supposed to come back on. And this was in about this was about 2014, by the way. This was about May 2014, and I sort of was not quite fully recovered when I came back, and as a result I ended up going to the doctors back and forth, and the doctors, because of what was going on, was sort of figured that basically I had some sort of lingering infection or something like that. And I went through various tests, and I had to go to the hospital, and I had to have blood tests and whatever else there was. It was an annoying kind of time, because I've been very lucky in my life in that I've never really been ill. I've always been extremely fortunate with my health. Poor pass. That I've never had anything like this happen before. But this went this went on for a number of weeks, and eventually the doctor decided to prescribe me some antibiotics. And the antibiotics, because there was still something not right, so I'd felt quite a bit better, because this all went on for a number of weeks, so gradually over time I just improved quite a bit. Back post. Finish! Yes. And I went on this course of antibiotics. It was only 5 days, it was only a short course, and I don't think I'd ever been on antibiotics before in my life. And basically what happened was, whatever the problem was that I had went away. They did their job. I remember going to a university reunion about 2 or 3 days after starting this course of antibiotics, and it being the first time that I was able to really eat properly in about 2 months. So in that regard, oh no. In that regard, it was great.
It must be.
Save keeper. But then what happened was the after effects kicked in. And to cut a long story short, oh my god, clear it! To cut a long story short, I think that the antibiotics killed off a lot more than they should have done. And as a result, I was quite unwell for quite a while in a different kind of way. And it messed me up a bit, to be quite honest. Mentally, I found that time very tough, because I wasn't sort of... It was never anything like that was... My life was in danger, or it was nothing that bad, and it wasn't like I was really terribly ill, but it was the first time, really, I'd had an extended period of not being well. And mentally, that took quite a big toll on me. And I started having issues with, like, medical anxiety and fearing that whatever was wrong with me was much worse than it was. The ultimate upshot was I had to have 2 quite unpleasant procedures at the hospital, and eventually after the second one it was determined, right, everything is fine, it's just, you know, some after effects, broadly speaking it's okay, and gradually over time things got much better, to the point at which now, today, I'm basically fine, which I'm, you know, very thankful for, because at one point I was scared that things were a lot more serious than they were. But, you know, that mentally knocked me back for the best part of a year, because this went on from about May 2014, and until the hospital test where they said, yeah, you know, we're sure you're fine, was March 2015. So I plan to come back to YouTube around about May 2014, because I did something called, which you may have heard of, called Tough Mudder. Well, when I say I did it, tried to do it. So me and a few friends from uni signed up for this Tough Mudder event, and I'm someone who is actually in quite good shape. I got into good shape at university. Became, you know, more health conscious and started eating better and exercising a lot. I've always been quite sporty, but then I sort of really started taking like the gym seriously and eating more healthily and stuff. What happened was, when we were doing Tough Mudder, I basically I injured myself on my way around the course. So we did it on a day that was just the most horrendous weather. And I mean like, really bad. And I hurt my leg on the way around quite early. So I still don't really know to this day what it was. I think what happened is I just not got the right shoes or whatever it was, and on this particular day I was falling over, as was everybody all the time. And just gradually, the more and more I went around this course, my leg just started hurting more and more, and I ended up in an ambulance, not because I was injured enough that I needed an ambulance, but because where I was on this course, because it was in the hills in Oxfordshire, a medical cart couldn't get to me. The only way they could get to me, and bearing in mind at this point I couldn't really walk, I couldn't put any weight on my leg without being in a lot of agony, was to bring an ambulance into this field. Now, of course, at this point I'm in a lot of pain, not sure quite what's wrong, and this ambulance turns up, and out of the ambulance, and this is not an exaggeration in the slightest, steps a dwarf. I don't mean a short person, I mean a genuine, straight-up dwarf. He was about 3 foot tall, you know, everything. And I figure I'm hallucinating, or something, and basically I ended up getting given laughing gas, or Entonox as I think it's called. But what we were hoping to do was film that, because one of my friends had a GoPro, and the idea was I was going to put that on YouTube, but his GoPro actually broke partway round, so I think there was next to no footage on it. And then the health things kicked in, and I never came back, and then time has just drifted.
Well, here comes the support.
But here we are today. No.
Successful tackle.
but it's been, you know, it has been an up and down time. That's the main kind of highlights of the last year. So I changed jobs in 2016, moved to a new company where I still am today. That's also gone well. I like the people there, you know, think things are good, and I still live in the same. Oh no, sorry, I don't live in the same place. I live in the same city, but I moved originally when I moved here to be with a friend from university, one of my previous housemates at university. I lived with him. No. Lived with him for a couple of years, and then he moved back to London, where he was originally from, because bless him, he's lived with me for about 5 or 6 years in total in his life. There's only so much somebody can stand.
That's a good save. He got a touch to that.
So then I moved into a house share, which is where I'm still living at the moment. I'm hoping to get into a position where I can buy a house sometime soon. And, you know, that's kind of a summary of where I've been. So it's been a mixed bag. Professionally, I've done very well. We won a Jonas goal. Ah, no!
Off the crossbar.
So close. Professionally, I've done very well. You know, I've been well thought of in both of the companies I've been in, as far as I'm aware. Certainly in the first one. I don't know. I think the second one, they seem to like me. I haven't been fired, so it can't be too bad. And now looking into hopefully the possibilities of buying a house, which is a fun challenge. But you know, with various things going on and so on, I've decided to have another little crack at this YouTube thing. Now, I am someone who is still very busy. I do still work, you know, a large number of hours a week, and I have a lot of other stuff that I do now. I've got my sports stuff going on down here, and hang on, Jonas! Oh no! Oh, I'm so sure that was the goal. So I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to fall into the trap of making lots and lots of promises or anything like that. I will say, because I've seen comments, and in case anyone realises, I do look at all your comments, even on these little clips that I've been posting since. I do read them all. But the comment that's come up again is about the Road to Manual Mastery series. I'm not going to reveal too much, but I am going to say keep your eyes out, because the plan is that something akin to that is on the way. I think it may be a little while before I can get it out. I don't know, but we shall see. But the plan is to do something, and aside from that, we'll just see whether or not there is more beyond that or not. The idea of this series, now that I'm drawing to the end, is to kind of just use it to talk, play a game, talk, and that's going to be about it. And
in on the goalkeeper, real chance.
Oh.
It's come off the goalkeeper, still in play.
Yeah, we'll talk about various things. So in the next one, whenever I get that up, we'll talk about FIFA, because obviously I haven't actually touched that in this this video really. I haven't really said anything about the game that's going on either. I've also realised I've made the naive assumption he's not going to score from this.
Decided to take a short corner this time. There's still danger. Saw the goal and went. Still a chance in there off the goal.
No. Shoot. And that's a win. So that's an update on me. You know, it's good to see you all again. And as I say, if this was a little bit raw, I'm sorry, but it's quite weird having not done this for 5 years. I'm probably a little rusty on getting me talking right. So keep your eyes out. Something is coming, I promise, and hopefully not too long. But I'm not going to put any kind of schedule on it. I'm not going to say what's going to happen when or anything like that, because the reality is I am a very busy guy now. You know, I'm 27 years old, full-time job. I've got other commitments as well. I don't have a huge amount of time for this. So yeah, keep your eyes out, and hopefully I will be seeing you and speaking to you again very soon. So if you've managed to slog your way all the way through this, then thank you very much, and I shall see you next time.